it's as slow as possible, so that way I can
enjoy it. Ooh, this is scenic.
Welcome back to the Weekend Warrior Show Recap Podcast. I'm Tyler from the Unemployed Architects. This week I'm sitting down with a good friend of mine, or soon-to-be good friend of mine, Nolan Kelly, formerly from the band Flaccid. So how you doing, man?
Good. What's up, man?
Oh, a lot of the same. People keep asking me that question, and I a lot of times don't have a very good answer, so...
Is this music gonna fade or man?
It's supposed
nice.
to. It's supposed to. I'll probably fix
smooth.
that in editing though. Like
I was wondering.
It's a little long.
I was wondering if
I started talking too soon is the problem.
No, it's a perfect radio vibe. I just wondered if we were gonna talk over it the whole time. Like it's the Weather Channel or something.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say earlier when you picked up the guitar, you could do that kind of thing.
Sure, I'll just play the whole time.
Yeah, you could just be flat picking in the back.
And then I'll absent-mindedly respond to everything.
Yeah, not totally.
Kinda here.
Yeah, that happened to me. The other day, I just started the new job that I mentioned at the music shop.
Yeah.
And
you liking it?
It's a job. It's more focused than the other music shop job I had. So I'm definitely feeling it. More hours, better commission, which is nice. But
good people too.
Yeah, the people
obviously.
there are super nice.
All those people are the best. They've helped me out so much over the years.
And I mean, I don't know. I wasn't expecting how nice they were.
Oh,
but
gosh.
even the people that you don't see, because there's a bunch of people in that back office and stuff, just the nicest people.
Yep.
The job itself, maybe not the most ideal, but because of the attitudes of everybody so good, it makes it easier.
It pretty much makes every job you have or anything you're doing is the people you're doing it with. Like,
but
Tony is endlessly just the best guy to shoot the shit with.
Yeah.
And Jeff, of course, all those guys are great.
Yeah, and I'm seeing those guys every day, so it's a good place to be. But I was just brought a guitar up from the back and was tuning it up to put it out, and Tony was talking to me, and I felt like after the fact was like, oh, I wasn't paying attention at all because I had a guitar in my hand.
Yeah.
And it's like I halfway was engaged and just doing my auto response mode, but not very engaged, and then sometimes I think that I feel bad about that a little bit. But
it's great how quickly you can get lost in it. It's the reason I'm sure you feel the same way about this. Like half the time that your girlfriend knows you're not listening to her, it's like, well, you're sitting there vibing, you're in the middle of something that you can't pay attention to everything else.
I agree, and I often feel bad for my girlfriend because she has to listen to me every day, for hours.
I can absolutely relate to that.
I play these, I can cover maybe 4 or 5 hours of music, but
probably 500 songs.
You
do a lot of shit.
Maybe more 100, 150, but even my solid sets that I practice every week, those songs she has to hear, and I'm a bit I don't feel like I'm a natural, I have to practice. I can't,
Sure.
I won't have as much fun because it won't sound as good ultimately.
Right, you gotta do everything beforehand
and
get
that's
completely tuned up.
I do feel like that's something I've had to learn over the years, that I'm not one of those guys that can just show up ready to go. I have to.
It's also better than, not to talk shit about anybody in particular, but that's better than being the guy that because you don't, your mindset might be the same way that I am. I don't want to be the guy that shows up and I'm playing tunes off of a fucking iPad looking at every lyric.
I get very annoyed at that stuff also, but I try. See, I've talked about this before, but I think if you can do 100 songs already and you grab the iPad and it makes it so you can do 200 songs, that's great. That's fine because you already put in the work to the 100. That extra 100 is just for random requests from people, and that's good for the crowd. But if you're doing a whole set where you're staring at an iPad, it starts to really bug me.
Yeah, and I guess I've never really seen anybody just do a whole set off an iPad, which is a good thing to point out. Yeah, I'm sure they're out there.
But I think they make the holders of the iPad more and more harder to notice too. So
sure.
Because I don't think anybody really pays that close of it. I think most people wouldn't notice.
Most people don't care either.
Yeah.
But from what you're saying, it's the perfectionist mindset of you want to have the song anything, whether it's the song specifically that you're learning or just having the theory under your belt that you spend years honing in to know what you can do musically with any given situation, is when you are able to show up and close your eyes and throw it all out the window and just take it from the heart. And
yeah, I think that's some of the best moments I've ever had performing is when like I get a look, because I'm so in my head all the time, and it's needless. I don't know why, but you know, I'm always analyzing everything, and I just think that, you know, those moments where you can kind of, like, you've put in all the legwork, so you've practiced all that time, and then like you forget about it, all that, and you just, like you said, kind of from the heart, just kind of
you turn off everything else, and you kind of just jump into that energy and become the moment. Like that kind of came to fruition with the way that Flaccid ended. Like when we knew that it kind of needed to come to an end, it seemed like it was going to just derail itself and not become anything. And I said, listen, like, if anything, we've got all of this unrecorded material that we haven't released, that we've been playing.
I'm going to bookmark that section of that, but keep going. I need to remember to come back to that.
Sure. And we've clearly been doing this out of love for so many years, and so many people would, it's not just for the sake of the people that would be upset if we hadn't had one last show to send it off properly, but to owe it to ourselves. Like, we'd put in all the time and legwork, and to get to that point and not send it off properly would have been a disservice. So even like 8 months out, I was like, we hadn't recorded anything yet. I always liked to record with Eric Nelson over at Eclipse. He's the man.
That's usually who when I do it in the studio. That's
and he's mentioned you actually.
He's awesome.
But I was like, we didn't even have the album recorded yet, and I was like, we're gonna book the show at the Castle 8 months out. We'll record the whole album.
So really put a deadline.
Yeah, sometimes you have to put a deadline on yourself and just say like,
I'm terrible.
This is what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna get it done somehow before then. But in the meantime, I'm still just winging it. Like, you just set the deadline, and then it's like, it's got to get done.
It'll fall into place, hopefully.
It's gonna get done one way or the other.
Well, that's great. I mean, I'm terrible with stuff like that. I tend to, you know, I get stuff done. I definitely do that. But as far as like getting it done in a timely fashion, I don't know. And sometimes, like, I've been working on an album for like over 5 years, you know, because it's so expensive to record in a studio, and it's so time consuming to do it all myself. And it's gonna be like a hybrid of like it's gonna be a 2-part album. One part's all studio songs, the other part's all kind of just home recording style stuff. And you know, it's been 5 years. That's too long. I don't know how to like.
It is and it isn't.
Finish
you can't quantify something that you're trying to make as a representation of what you're doing. At the same time, it is good to like give yourself deadlines, but it's hard when it's funny that you say that about you doing a hybrid album, because I've got like 4 songs recorded with a few of my friends that I was going to put out just as an EP, and I've got so many other songs in the works and so many musical friends that it's like I've kind of decided to just do a more fully fleshed out album with a collaboration of numerous different friends of mine, like with the 4 songs I already have, and then
just build on that
some songs that I've actually already recorded with my buddy Alex Dewey. I might even include, if he's up for it, that are like really like electronic. Cool. Which is odd,
different,
because he's more like, most people would think of him as like a
real
bluegrass guy,
right?
But he, in his spare time, had been recording a bunch of like electronic tracks, and then had me just come in and wail over all of them, and they all turned out spectacular. So
you're thinking it's gonna be like 5 or 6 like regular songs, and then maybe 5 or 6 songs like that?
So the 4 that I've got are pretty, it's me on acoustic, and then some dobro via Chris Wyman, and bass and keys with Kyle and Siege. And they all sound great as they are, but there's also going to be some like full band backed tracks, like maybe even with the guys from Flaccid, of course. And
so did you, with those are mostly home, like the 4 you have done, those are mostly at home?
They were written at home, but we recorded them with Eric, actually.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so that'll be great.
They sound fantastic. I'll send them to you.
I mean, if they were recorded by Eric and you guys, I think
they sound great. I was really happy with the way they came out. We did them all just in one night, knocked them all out, 4 in a row.
Yeah, I'm bad at that too. I'll do one song, it'll take me like 3 months. but it'll be 3 recording sessions. Let's say.
Sure.
But
well, yeah, with as prized as Eric is and hard as it can be to get in there once in a while, you get maybe 1 or 2 days a month
spaced out for
yeah.
sure. But yeah, I'm definitely jealous about being able to just finish some. I mean, I do some stuff, but not enough. I never feel like I'm doing enough.
Well, again, it's kind of the trade-off to that, I think, where you do something so many times and then you learn to just trust that it's good enough and let it go. Because like we'd played those songs of mine a fair number of times, and obviously Kyle and CJ, having been in the band with me before, helped. Like and Chris too. Like we all know each other's musical stylings, and we all knew what we were going for with each one. So we did a few takes of each, and then you just kind of let it go. They were all just live tracked. I sang while we did them, so in the same room. So
yeah, I never do them that way, just because I don't even have a band half the time.
Right.
I'm very. You could call the Unemployed Architects Tyler and Friends. I think just like you do the Nolan Kelly and Friends.
Well, that was. I guess that's something that I couldn't think of a name anyway. It's not like I was starting a new band. I was like, I didn't want it to just be anything to do with my name, but at the end of the day, I was like, my name's not going to change. I can just keep doing whatever I want to do under my own name forever, and I can cycle out Friends as soon as they get sick of me. So
that's pretty I would say pretty similar to the situation I'm in. Like
unemployed. You're not an architect.
Yeah, I'm not unemployed technically, so I'm really neither of those things.
Now you're the employed.
Employed something, yeah, I don't know, but getting the older I get, the harder it is to keep.
How old are you?
31.
You're not that old.
How old are you?
28. I'm not that old.
Well,
sometimes you feel old. I'm a spry 28.
You got. You're a little more maybe hopeful probably than I'm more on the jaded end of things, I think.
I don't know. I'm a pretty hopeful person, but I do all I can to run myself down. So.
Yeah, you kind of have to, right? So let's talk about Flaccid a little bit. I've done sound. I was gonna bring this up earlier, but you were like, save it for the show there. But
we were talking shit about all sorts of people. I was like, let's wait until we're on.
We get the mics on, so we can put it down
properly.
But I did sound for you guys once at McGuire's. I don't know, it was a long time ago.
It must have been the first time we played there.
I believe it was a Nick Leroy production.
Yes. Oh man, that's funny too, because I fucking hate that dude. I'm just kidding, he's alright. But yeah, that was the first time that we played there. He had booked us at like some after show from the castle or something. So it was fun, man.
Yeah, and I didn't really know what to expect, but you guys kind of threw it down, and I was like, these guys are pretty good.
We went hard.
Yeah, and that's kind of all you want, I think. I mean, you don't want to go up there, you don't want to watch somebody go up there and not go hard.
No, nobody wants to see somebody go up there half-mast.
But you guys tend to stay on, more on the kind of jammy side, jam band-esque rock.
We kind of got lumped into that, and we were actually, Kyle and Nick were over last night, we were playing some tunes just in my basement, and we were kind of talking about that. Well, obviously, we got lumped in with that after ending up playing at summer camp and stuff like that. But like, and I'm sure every jam band feels this way, but we never felt like we were really a jam. Like, we were a band that obviously jammed, but we had so many songs.
One part,
like,
right? We had one part.
It was a combination between having like, we probably had like 30 songs by the time we were done. And
I do remember that show being a little bit on the jammy side.
I'm sure it was.
But that's, I was coming from a guy that mainly goes to bars and plays acoustic and just plays song.
Right.
I'll play sometimes 40 songs in a set.
In an hour.
That would be pretty extreme.
See, we were never shy about jamming and letting the music play the band.
And honestly, I would love to do that. It's just when you're playing by yourself, you don't really have that option.
Unless you really drown out the ideas of anything and take the liberties you want to with being instrumental with yourself.
I think you have to do a lot of looping, or I started doing the foot percussion stuff, and that tends to help a little bit as far as I keep the beat going and drop out. But as soon as I'm playing guitar, as soon as I'm dropping out, it sounds pretty empty. It's hard I mean, there are ways. Don't get me wrong. There are ways to kind of fill it in.
I feel you, because you do feel like you're just drowning up there, where it's just you. Like I always.
How many acoustic shows have you done? A few or
plenty? I mean, I've done plenty of acoustic shows, and the one thing I learn every time is that I don't want to be the only one up. I can easily feel comfortable getting into that zone and just vibing off of my own playing, and still even have fun. Like I can entertain with just a guitar and singing, but it's always so much more fun for me, I find, if I have at least one other person up there. Like if Chris is up there playing dobro with me, like I'm vibing off him and like sending him in a different direction, and or just anybody really, to where I can take more liberties myself with. If I have Kyle playing bass, I can leave him the low end and just kind of go crazy.
That's really what the main thing I feel like I'm always missing is a bass player. I play with another guitar player a lot, and we kind of can, kind of go back and forth a little bit. Yeah, Blair.
I love that dude.
You've hung out with him more than a few times.
That dude.
Who doesn't?
He's a sweetheart.
Yeah. And he's a lot of fun, good guitar. I mean, his guitar tone may be the best I've ever. I mean, have you seen his cockpit that he kind of...
He's got a whole rig. Yeah, he's got a corner.
Yeah, when you play a full band show with Blair Steffens, he takes up a good
2 hours of the load in.
And a 10x10 section on the stage that's just pedal boards.
Zoned off just for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a great tone.
And I mean, he's always just been obsessed with tone. But what I was saying is, it's nice when it was me and him, we kind of go back and forth a little bit. But the other people I play with a lot, which are my girlfriend Laura Lynn and Dave Faulkner, the hand percussionist, it still feels like even if I'm doing hand percussion and he's doing hand percussion, I'm doing foot percussion, and it kind of has like a drum set kind of vibe. It's still, when I drop the guitar out, it just sounds so empty. And I mean, I have pedals to kind of fill in the space sometimes. Like I have like what is it? It's Boss octave pedal. Mm-hmm. I think it's a 8 or something. But anyway, and it has a setting where you can have a separate bass note out, but you have to completely adjust the way you play because you're setting the range of the bass, which is annoying. And then so that only works for so many songs unless you want to like revamp how you do your whole like repertoire.
Yeah, and then if you're looping, you got to make sure that you not only nail it, but you're comfortable just jamming on what you're sitting on for however long.
See, I like the idea of that, and I've messed with that in a few, more than a handful of times, but it's just the setup part of the loop is just so unentertaining to me when people are doing it. It's like cool, it's like gimmicky and cool for like, the first 5 songs, but after that, like, you're like, all right, but again, that's just an opinion thing. Blair does the looping stuff a lot, and I feel like it's nice because he does some of it, but not enough to, like, too many in a row, and then, like, I'll do the foot percussion for other songs, and we kind of trade off back and forth, so it's not just, like, setting up a loop for 5 minutes before every song, so you can... Because, I mean, it takes crazy talent to do that, too. It's almost like learning a whole different instrument, I feel like.
You just got to be especially dialed in with your rhythm and know exactly where you're coming in on the one, and then to end it and execute it to make sure that it's looping properly.
Right, and I think there's just one little, like, just being a hair off would ruin my whole song,
It absolutely would. You'd be the guy standing there like, let me just ready that real quick.
Yeah, I'd be doing it
7
real times.
quick and then record it again. You can kind of fudge that and get away with it too, but it's definitely something else that you have to work at.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I like the idea of being live too. I mean, I don't hate the looping stuff. I think it's very cool and very talented.
I think I've mostly employed it as like outros if I'm playing solo. To like if I'm doing some kind of extended outro where it's going to be some of the same chords over each other, and then I want to go crazy over my own loop, or play with myself.
But I always find live with that stuff too. The levels are so important because if your loop isn't like just not quite loud enough,
have it dialed in.
It can get and I always feel like I always have too much stuff to dial in already. So then I don't know. It's constantly like just adding more things and more things and more.
How has it been for you since? Because I imagine you were always staying pretty busy. Just even booking shows, which is a lot more work than people think of.
It's very true.
How has it been for you? I mean, obviously you've said you've been working at the music shop, but how's it been for you to have kind of a relief?
It's been weird, but it's...
Does it feel like a relief?
No,
or do you feel
never.
terrible?
One of the first things I said when this all happened was, I used to think that I was just busy turns out I'm just a procrastinator and like.
But you also like staying busy. Clearly, when you're looking at that many shows, like you're doing it because you love it.
But I was just saying, like I feel like I might use that as an excuse to not get some stuff done, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I try to stay as busy as possible, and it was super weird. I never really completely halted because I was always teaching, 3 days a week, which isn't that much, but your whole day kind of revolves around that. But
what was it that you didn't think you were getting done, and do you now feel like you're not getting done?
Just in a different way.
In a different way, right? Because now you're like, I'm not playing shows. Are you getting the other things done that you didn't feel like you were?
No,
not whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, I release podcasts and I release music, but it's never fast enough, I feel like. And I never am getting. Always trying to gain ground, and I always feel like somebody's right on my tail. Not literally a person, but I mean like I just got to keep pushing, keep going, and I never can quite get as much stuff done as I feel like. And I know that some of that has to do with, I see other people on social media and how much they're doing, and I'm like, well, I need to work harder,
But that's just too much attention to fucking social media.
That's definitely true, but I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to be successful. I feel like if you're really trying to do that, you really have to like do all the work. You can't.
There's no corners. Yeah, you don't just cut every fucking corner and expect things to just happen.
But also, it's probably not good to be like, so tired all the time and like feel like I'm not getting, that unfulfilled feeling. I don't know if you have that at all. But
sometimes, as anybody does, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, like, you're doing what you can. Like, you're still here. You're still working. You're still staying busy. Like, when you pay attention to social media and people that are just constantly showing the better parts of usually
it's constantly just their best
things. The best or the worst, where you see nothing but politicizing. And like you were talking about before we started this, like how many touchy things you can get to that you don't want to, even as a musician, like you don't want to over politicize something because you don't want to rub anybody the wrong way, one way or the other, whether it's like in fucking Joe Rogan or Dave Matthews. Like, like at the end, when you have a conversation with somebody, you're not having a flat, static conversation via text over some stupid app. You're actually we could disagree about everything, and it'd be much easier fleshed out within a conversation as opposed to...
Well, there'd be a certain level of empathy and having to look the other person in the face. You can't just, say. I mean, some people can. I wouldn't be able to. I don't even like doing anything on the Facebook as far as... but, being a musician, you kind of have to have a little bit of the marketing from... I mean, there's no way around it, especially, I think, for our age group and the people that would come to my shows.
Until now, when there's no shows anyway.
That is true.
Then you have to shift your mentality to just putting out stupid videos and any content anyway. Right? Yeah, podcasts.
Podcasts are fun, though. But
they're so fun.
I like the podcast forum because, or medium, because there's no expectation.
Right.
Like, it's just whatever I want it to be at any time. It doesn't have to be anything. Whereas, with some of the other, like, artistic stuff I do, I have this vision.
You've got expectations I think that's something that maybe when I think that I just wing it with everything I do, like, I don't have any expectation necessarily for anything that I might be creative with. It's just like, let's just do what we're going to do and do as much as we can and see what happens. And there's certainly flaws to that, but it's at the end of the day, like, just put it out there.
When I was a little younger, I might have had more of that mentality. I think the longer my life goes on, the less that, I feel like I've been working for, maybe not as much as you need to for, whatever there's no amount of time that says like, oh, if I do it for this long, it's going to be success. There is no game plan, and I want to be successful really bad at this because I just don't feel like I can work a normal job.
Yeah, and this isn't a cop-out by any means, but it's true that success to a certain extent is really what belies you to feeling happy. Like,
well, my whole idea of that is just I want to play shows like as much as possible from my job. I mean, that's my vision of success. I don't have have, albums and albums of all the songs I've written on, like, down recorded to, like, a satisfactory level. That's been my vision of success since, like, day one. And it's part of my income, so it's like I have some sort of success. And I'm sure if I talk to myself, my 28-year-old self, and I told that person what I've been up to and, like, what I do and stuff, he would be like, oh, that's pretty successful. You're doing a really good job. But it's like every time you level up, my expectation is different now.
It grows for you, thinking that you haven't. Because see, you could also slightly shift that mentality and say, like, for you to say that you don't necessarily have all of your songs recorded, like, maybe that would be a different definition of success, not to necessarily have, like, there is no reward for the creation of it. I think
the reward is the creation.
Yeah, the process of it is what is great, and maybe you'd feel more rewarded intrinsically if you did finish, like, the album you said you've been working on for 5 years and had those things down.
Yeah.
Because that's something that will, everything's going to burn to the ground.
Oh, I know that for sure. And I've talked about that plenty, about, everything kind of will become dust at some point. So I don't know why I, try so hard to leave my mark on stuff or whatever. But there's something inside of me
But putting that music down on record does leave that music out there and puts it out into the void.
But again, I mean, it's going to crumble as well. Everything's going to crumble at some point. So does it matter to, like, existence and reality? I don't think so. But to me, since that's all I'm here, I feel like to do, it does matter. It's the only thing I have that I focus all my time and my energy on.
I think you're successful then if you enjoy what you do, and if you find the means to do it in the first place. That's success. You're doing it. The fact that you're doing it at all is the success of it.
And in some ways I agree with you, but there's a lot of stuff that, I wish that I didn't have to necessarily focus. Like, the day job is the simple, easiest one to kind of understand. I mean, setting up for a show is also not my favorite thing to do, like little things like that promoting, booking, all this stuff that
it's another full-time job.
Yeah, if I could just outsource that stuff and only focus on the part that, like, I really enjoy, I feel like that would be, a little more successful.
Yeah, but would you unless you really had somebody that you knew and trusted that was going to hit it as hard as you do? You don't want to leave anything in your own creation to the hands of somebody else.
And that's definitely true, and I've had, trouble with that in the past. A couple times I've let somebody else take the reins on things, and
it doesn't work out the way you want it to.
Yeah.
That's part of.
So I'm a control freak ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be. If you want yourself to be represented in the way you want to. Sometimes you just got to do it yourself.
Yeah, and I try, and I don't know. I don't think there is a happy, successful place anyway. I think that that's kind of an illusion. Ultimately, I understand that everybody that works really hard and gets to this place that they always wanted to be. It's like once you get there, you're like, well, now what? Your mentality.
Yeah, that might be true, but those people that get there, you just keep going. Like,
yeah, you just set a new bar, and that's, I think, but I'm just saying, like, because when you get to that place that, like, my 28-year-old self would envision would be successful, like, or more successful would be where I am now, but now my vision of, being successful is in maybe my 3 years from now self, and then when we talk about that person, they have a 10-year, the finish line just keeps moving, I think.
Yeah,
and
I've never understood anybody that thinks they have a 5-year fucking plan. That doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm just out here winging it.
I don't think I have a plan. I'm just saying, like, so my 28-year-old self, if they knew what I was doing now, which they didn't because I didn't have a plan, they and I was like, okay, well, I'm playing shows every Friday and Saturday. I'm making, a good portion of my income. I'm recording. Like, if I said all this stuff to my younger self, I think my younger self would be like, that's pretty successful. Like,
sure.
You're doing good.
Sure.
But now that I'm here, even though I didn't plan that out, I've moved the finish line. Now I think that, I'd have to be this to be successful. And I think if I ever got to that place not that I have a plan to get there. I have a bunch of ideas on stuff, but I don't have like a 5-year plan necessarily. But anyway, I don't know. All I'm saying is I think my personality might be unsatisfied. I think that's just who I am as a person.
Just your perception of just dissatisfied as as a mindset.
Yeah, I try to get out of that as much as possible.
I definitely feel the same way about a lot of things. Like, for some reason, things just aren't ever good enough. It's like I gotta fucking.
There's moments of good stuff.
There's moments of clarity where you realize, like, man, I've got a great fucking life.
Well, you had said something. You had said, oh, maybe if you like finish that album, and I feel like that stuff is like there's a visceral feeling of like, oh, I did it, and I feel good.
I felt a huge sense of relief after the 6-year build up and realizing that we were going to end the band, to be able to say, like, we're going to do it the way that we want to do it. It's going to end, and we're going to go out the way that we want to and record the final album and play the last show. And the whole thing came to the final moment of it at the castle, and it was, to your point, truly just visceral. It was fucking beautiful.
And you put all that legwork in, and then, it was the last show, so it's like, I think there's some SNL skit where it's like, they're like, last game of the year, can't hold anything back.
Yeah.
So I'm sure on that last show, I mean, you're not even going to be worried about practice ever. You're not going to be worried about that next show, so you can really just let it go, put it all out there.
Yep, we just let it rip right before we got on stage, and then we got on stage and drowned out for literally 2.5 hours. We played straight through.
That's awesome.
And walked off leaving nothing but our fucking blood on the stage, and deservedly that night partied our asses off till like 7 a.m. I'm sure.
Nice.
It was a good time.
Well, and I think there's a little bit of like beauty in that story. That's a good story. Like,
I would never want to be the one to like go out in a way that you didn't want to. You know what I mean? Like, it was just quintessential. The way
I think the nice thing about it is there's a start, there's a middle, and there's an end. You know, I feel like that's like a nice, like, it's put together, it's all there. You have probably stories from that whole section. But
oh my god, I got so many stories.
It's just nice to like have it be like that was that section of your life,
right.
And now you're on to the. See, I've been stuck in the Unemployed Architect since I've been in high school.
But it's you,
right?
It's your thing,
and that's definitely true. But I'm just saying, like, at some point I probably am gonna put an end on it. But I feel like the fact that I haven't leaves it a little bit. It's not as good of a story because there isn't an end.
Yeah, it was a ball of fire that was just. Eventually, I mean, it went up and it was coming down, and at the end of the day, it was just like, I don't think you need to think of your creative entity, the Unemployed Architects, as something that needs to have a finite end, because it is your thing. Like, this was an organic group of 5 guys that were all just best friends, and we did it because we loved it, and at the end of the day, with lives going different ways, we all knew, even if we didn't want to admit it at the time, we all knew that if we didn't end it for the sake of all of us still being able to be best friends, we probably wouldn't even be friends today. Like,
and being in a band, I mean, because I know you're saying it's like my entity kind of, but there was a time period where it was exactly what you're saying. It was 4 guys that we had played show. We had, it would have been like my first year at college, and it was Blair as the guitar player, Kevin Lyons the bass player, and Big D the drummer. And we played hundreds and hundreds of shows, and so that's why I can really relate to that, because we did it. So, like, even though the Unemployed Architects isn't an end, like there's not like a period on it necessarily, that group of the Unemployed Architects does kind of have a period on it. I mean, I like to leave it open-ended just in case they'd want to come back and play, and I still play with Blair all the time and record with Kev all the time, and still great friends with Big D, but I could see what you're saying as far as, you get to a point where you're all just in different places, and, maybe not, you're sick of each other. That's definitely a little bit of it.
Well, I think that ego creeps in when you think about expectations again, and like when you start thinking about expectations, it skews the perception of the dynamic, what's going on, and then it's like, when life things happen, and when somebody is thinking about, moving for this or that, and things come up, it's like, well, you gotta take another look at what you're doing, and you put your own expectations up against that, and you say, well, like, is it worth fighting with these people that we're only doing it because you're best friends? No, like, let's, if it's gonna end for whatever reason, like, let's just end it properly. Let's make it the best thing that we can be, so that we're happy with it when we look at it and step away from it. And when you take the expectations away, you might think in the time that it's never going to happen again, but then you look at it a year or two later and you're like, that you can do whatever you want with it still. You could still even make more music with those guys, or do whatever it might be. It doesn't have to be a continuous thing in the first place.
I definitely get what you're saying, but I still do think there is something nice about you guys all mutually, like, in a good place, from a good, like, plate, like a good, like, from your heart. We're like, let's, for the sake of all of us, let's do this the right way, and you did it the right way.
We are all still best friends. We still have a group thread that we talk to each other every week. I mean, we're all still best friends, which is really the best thing in the world. Like, that we can still play together. I
wanted to talk a little bit about, so where can people find your music? 'Cause I had a tough time online. I mean, is it on Spotify?
Flaccid, you mean?
Yeah, Flaccid.
Yeah, it's all on Spotify.
See, I don't have Spotify. It's like the main one I don't have.
It's probably on Bandcamp too, but
I looked on Bandcamp and I found, like, I listened to, like, it might have been like a basement, live from the basement or something.
Sure. Yeah,
it may have been like a 13...
We might have at one point.
Long
we might have at one point gotten rid of everything on Bandcamp, but I believe
I looked on YouTube and I wasn't really finding a lot bad. I mean, I found the live stuff and I listened to that for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, there's the final show. I think both of our albums are on there. But yeah, it's all out there. I would say mostly Spotify.
Yeah,
if you don't have Spotify, you should get Spotify. It's pretty. I mean.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the idea of Spotify, but. I pay for. I like Pandora just a little bit better.
Oh, really?
I know. Most people don't.
I used to love Pandora, but it's like you're just getting it's like an iPod Shuffle. Like you're just, which is cool.
It can be cool for the right like mentality to find new music, which I'm always on the hunt for.
So am I. And for a while, Pandora was fucking great for like feeding me new music. But at some point, it was just like, if you know what you want to listen to, and then if you say you listen to something on Spotify, you search for exactly what you want to listen to. So you want to listen to Queens of the Stone Age. Next thing you know, you've got them making subtle suggestions of other things that might be similar to that, and they end up making playlists. You don't have to listen to them, obviously, but playlists of different selections of things that you search for that are semi-related between genres. I love Spotify. You're gonna have to get it if you want to listen to the fucking Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Actually, you don't have to get it. I think it's still going to be free. You can listen to Spotify for free. It's just probably more ads.
But the thing with this, that's the part I don't like about Spotify. That's the only thing I don't like about it, is because for Pandora for a long time, you listen to an ad, but it was here and there. But with Spotify, if you don't pay for it, you can almost hear none of the music you want to hear.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess I wouldn't know because I haven't.
Most people just pay for it.
I remember it being every couple songs would be an ad, but I remember Pandora being the exact same way.
I feel like every time I go on Spotify and try to use it as an unpaid person, it frustrates me so bad that I won't pay for it, and that's so dumb, I know, but it is frustrating that, like, if I want to listen to Flaccid and I go to Flaccid and I hit the button, a lot of times what happens is it'll play an ad. And then it'll be on this. The only option is like the shuffle play, and maybe I'm just an idiot and don't really know how to use Spotify. I don't know, but for most bands that I like, I can usually find. If you pay for Pandora, you can listen to whole albums. And
how much is Pandora every month?
It's like $4.99 or $5.99 or something.
I guarantee you they don't have even a shadow of the extent of music.
I also have Amazon Prime, so that has a lot of like the classic stuff that I like.
Yeah.
And then I have YouTube, which has a lot. So between those three apps, I'm kind of covered. But I realize that's three apps to probably do what I could do with Spotify if I just paid for it. But
if you want to listen, if you're listening specifically to music, Spotify is undeniably just the best app out there. There's no getting around it. I mean, I kind of fucking hate them too. But there's no getting around. I mean, I could tell you, like, yeah, you could find our music on iTunes, I'm sure, but nobody uses iTunes anymore. Like,
well, it'd be Apple Music, and you'd have to. I don't have an iPhone, so that'd be out of the question for me as well. I don't know.
Spotify is just too big to ignore. I mean, we don't make any money off it, I'm sure. I'd never see a check.
I keep track of all that stuff. Yeah, you don't make like anything, and you don't really make anything on anything but Tidal, I don't think, and none of my stuff ever really gets streamed on Tidal, so I don't know. There's really no way in streaming that you're gonna make a lot of money, I think, unless
the only way that you're really doing anything is when you hold off long enough, they'll offer you hundreds of millions of dollars to license all your music, and then you get a one-time payout, and they've got your shit forever.
But until then, it's just a fraction of a fraction. And
yeah, and really, I mean, if you're talking music business, most of the money is made by actually being out there and selling your own merch and shit, not fucking.
Were you guys was Flaccid good about that? Did you guys have a lot of merch?
We were as good as we could be for being Five Guys and Fries. Like anything, we had merch.
I like that little that saying.
Yeah,
Five Guys and Fries.
Yeah, that's what we were when we stuffed ourselves into Honda CRV, Five Guys and Fries, flying around the country. But yeah, I mean, we were as good as we could be, unless you have the extra person with you, which was nice when, towards the end, I bought us a big, huge van that had 6 chairs and a bench in the back. It was ideal. You could stand up in it. It was glorious. But unless you have that extra person there to really, be up there selling merch, you kind of miss a lot of opportunities.
See, all I've ever done, I mean, I've had shirts and things made here and there, but nothing very consistent. But without having the extra people, like you're saying, it's really difficult to run a merch table. I've seen people. I just watched John Till play over at Distill a couple weeks back, and he had his merch table all set up to the right of the stage, and on his break he would kind of go sit at it. But I mean, it's just you kind of have to keep an eye on it, and I don't know. It's a whole extra thing. If you're already doing
money, you're dumping into it.
Yeah,
to get a bunch of stuff there.
Initial investment. What I always do is I just get a bunch of CDs printed, and usually on the CD I'm like, you can also stream us on these places, and because nobody listens to CDs anymore, and I put it in the tip jar up front, and that way people I have a reason to mention my tip jar, which is nice, but also, if you do come up and put in a tip, you actually get to go home with something, and it's the thing I want you to have. It's the thing I've put the most time and effort in, is the music. But I do feel like there is a lot of missed opportunity with like different little merch things that people do financially, because you
got to build the hype about it just as much as you do the music. It's kind of a weird thing. Promoting yourself is just a weird thing in general.
Yeah, I haven't yet to crack that code.
It's a constant, like anything. You just gotta keep doing it, and it's harder too when you're pent up at home and you're still trying to do something where you're thinking, I'm too lazy to promote this. Everybody's just sitting at home anyway, and like.
It's just a weird mix of having to be the business guy and the artist as well, because a lot of artists don't have that.
Yep. You're marketing, you're promoting, you're booking, you're doing it all.
And I mean, you pretty much have to learn that from the ground up.
Oh yeah.
But I wanted to get into some Flaccid stuff because it is the Weekend Warrior Show recap podcast. I want to talk about maybe some highlights and stuff. Not to put you on the spot or anything, but is there? Because you guys were always on. It always seemed like on like a nice festival circuit, which I was always so jealous of. Because I would see your names at all these big festivals, and I was like, man, how do they do it? And
yeah, God only knows.
But so some of it'd be interested to hear your take on that and why that happened, and then also just like give me like a few big shows. And you're saying you were in a van, so you did some touring. I'd like to hear about that.
I think what started off was our friendship with our still dear friend Ashley Spiegelhoff. She was working at Canopy Club at the time, back in the day, probably 2013 or 14. And she had clued us in on the quote-unquote, which it was, Battle of the Bands that they had over there to get into, like, summer camp. So...
Real quick, what are your thoughts? Because I have some strong opinions on the Battle of the Bands.
I fucking hate Battle of the Bands.
Good,
I think it's fucking stupid.
Yeah,
but we did it. And we won. So that was pretty much what that was. A lot of... week after week of showing up and playing, which was good for us. I mean, it's not that we were upset about playing, but the democracy of it is just kind of silly. Like to to pit people against each other.
Yeah, that's the part of it I don't like. When
you get to the end and then this guy's over here like crying, upset that this band didn't win. Like, they would put that band in some slot in the festival anyway. Like, at least that was the perception that I had. Like, it seemed like even if you had lost, like, they'd probably do you a solid and put you in, like, at some slot regardless. But in any event, we did the one battle. I think we might have done a second one even. Like, it was extensive.
So that was to get on the summer camp stage?
Yeah, to get on the actual event itself. And we played that for 2 years. And then we had an off year, and then we were still just playing.
So you guys just kept coming back for the Battle of the Band thing?
Well, no, I want to say we did 2 years, and I think we won. If we did 2, we won both of them. But in any event, we played 2 years, and then we had an off year where we didn't play, and we were still playing around everywhere, obviously. And returned the following in 2018, I believe. And 2017, maybe. My years are all mixed up.
Yeah, I can't keep track of that stuff.
But I mean, it was a great experience. I mean, we played other festivals, probably none as big as that, but those guys are great. I mean, so many great bands there, obviously, like huge names. Like, it's great to just be a small part of it and to be able to like go there and have the best time.
So do you think playing there kind of influenced the rest of the festivals you got on, or was those all separate? Or
it might have certainly had an influence on like people, just to put on like your resume as a band. Like, yeah, you know, you play this show. You don't really notice it at the time. It's not like it was an end all be all by any means. You kind of think like, oh, like you do this and then things fall into place. No, you're still out there working your ass off to make connections and to get on other things. But yeah, it definitely gave us whatever bit of credo to say, like, we've done this and we'd love to play it, whatever.
And you guys were obviously good and successful at the, I mean, you not only did you get the opportunity, but I think you probably came through in the opportunity. It must have been some good shows.
Yeah, they were all fantastic.
So, I mean, and that, you know, like you're saying, kind of comes with that, all the legwork you put in, but it's not just about, like, you guys were, you know, bestowed this great opportunity and that opened all the doors. It was, you guys got a good opportunity and then you delivered on it.
Yeah, and we definitely worked for the opportunity by, you know, it's nothing short of humbling to go play a fucking Battle of the Bands where you're competing against other musicians, which is not what music is about at all.
Right, and that's like my main critique.
Oh, it's fucking terrible.
And it's ultimately like a lot of times like a popularity contest, and I only know that
absolutely
because I've won a Battle of the Bands before, and that was not because I was the best band there. I definitely was not.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that we were the best band there, but there was definitely no lack of us like making a point to get every single one of our friends, I say, and fans that were all just, you know, our hundreds of best friends to fucking cart themselves down to Champaign every fucking week and be there and be adamant about yelling and being drunk hooligans and like yelling at the fucking commentators. He's like at the one, maybe it was just one, I can't remember, my memory's shit, but at the one that we won, like when he was about to announce it, you kind of got the impression that if he didn't like say it was Flaccid, that those 150, 200 people were just gonna fucking rip his face off. Like, it was wild. Like, in
the same regard, to have that many people that are there to fight for you is, you know, showing something. You know, it's not necessarily saying that it's just a popularity contest, but if you can get that many people there to show up because they support you, you're obviously doing something outside of that. That's very correct.
That was certainly kind of our mentality within the fact that we also had them. They were all driving down, mostly from Bloomington to Champaign, whereas I think the other bands were all from Champaign. So we were kind of outside of our regular comfort zone, but still bringing the turnout to bring the heat.
There you go. So let's talk big shows that kind of maybe very memorable, or maybe a really terrible show you had.
Some of the best memories, as far as like just great fucking stories, are like when you bring up the van. We didn't get a chance to take it across country, but At one point, we were just 5 guys and fries stuffed into Jack's Honda CR-V with a trailer behind it. And we were doing this 2-week tour out to California and back. We were going out there to do this pre-show little mini festival before the Grateful Dead's first reunion. They had like a stint of shows out there to kind of warm up when Trey was initially playing with them. And we played this show in San Jose that coincidentally Nick Leroy had set up this fest at this plaza to just kind of pre-show their whole weekend of gigs there. So we drove all the way out. We stopped in Denver on the way. Jack was extremely, not even hesitant. He really did not want to. He almost wanted to back out of the whole thing. And
Why was that?
He was so anxious and kind of having a mental breakdown at the time, and really did not want to take his fucking car. It was his car.
Oh yeah.
And at his dad's.
That makes sense.
It does. It did. It does, and it still does. But I'd put a lot of work into his car to get it ready, and then it was like the last week or two before that he was like saying like, man, like we can't go, we can't take my car. And I was like, listen, dude, we're taking your car. You don't have to go if you don't want. I was just like being a dick. But he came, and a bunch of other shit hit the fan. Even on the way out there within the first 8 hours, like people were having relationship trouble at home, and like things were just hitting the fan. And Jack had this uphill choo-choo train of anxiety it was a 2-week tour. The whole first week it was
a rough drive. I mean, especially.
And I drove like 100% of it. I drove the.
So you know better than he does how rough of a drive.
Oh, I made like the 18 to Colorado, or most of them, and then from there we played 2 nights in Denver, and at the end of the second show it was 2 a.m. We packed up, and we immediately hit the road for a 29-hour straight through from there to San Jose.
That sounds crazy.
And I did it all myself, thanks to Adderall. And so we're leaving Colorado, we're leaving Denver, we're like 2 hours out, we're about to cross the state line. Even though we're fucking stupid. We're on federal property being on the highway anyway, so it would have been the same thing if we got pulled over before, but we're like,
because weed.
Yeah, we've got tons of weed and different edibles and whatnot from Colorado before it was legal here, of course. So we thought it was top shit. But
I mean, it probably was.
It was great. But we thought we were hot shit, I should say.
Oh, there you go.
And we get before the state line. We pull off at this rest stop. We're like, well, we'll just burn through the rest of what we got before we cross. No big deal. And we burn it all through. It's like 3:30, 4 a.m. And I'm still driving, and I'd probably taken an Adderall, but I was like, I'm just fucking tired. Like 3 or 4 hours later, I was like, I really need a nap.
So I'm guessing at the border is probably not as mountainy as like right outside.
Yeah,
of
we were kind of coming down. It wasn't too bad, but in any case, it's in the middle of the night. I'm like, everybody else is asleep in the back. I see Kyle to my right. Nick is in the back seat. Usually he was in the far back over the like whatever luggage we had in the trunk. He would sleep on that. And Nick's in this seat, CJ's in the other seat, Jack's in the middle under this blanket. I'm like, they're all fucking passed out. I pull over to this rest stop, which we're going up to, I believe, towards Utah, and it was getting hilly again. We're like up in the side of this mountain, but I was like, I just need a nap. Like, I need to catch some shut-eye. So I see all the guys sitting there, I'm like, cool. I'm not going to fall asleep in the driver's seat. There's just no way. I got to get up. I'm gonna go over to, there's this little grass patch over the left, and in retrospect, it's probably illegal to sleep outside at a rest area because they're legally responsible if somebody just comes up and stabs you while you're sleeping there in the middle of the night. But I wasn't thinking anything.
Right.
I just go over.
You just needed to get some sleep.
I just need like an hour just to fucking recharge. And I lay down for what I think is like an hour. It's been like 2. I wake up, the sun's coming up. I'm like, fuck, we gotta hightail it. Like, I still got 20.
So you had a show that you were trying to get to.
20 hours away, and I've still got to fucking drive. So I jump back in the car. I'm like, fuck, I overslept. I look back. I looked outside. Kyle's still there. I look back. CJ, Nick's still there. Jack's still under his blanket in the middle seat, just passed out. I'm like, we're good to go. So I fucking fly out of the fucking rest stop, and we're going uphill the whole way. And I notice we're on a quarter tank of gas. I'm like, fuck, I wonder when the next gas station is. So we're going uphill, and 20 minutes later, Nick wakes up. He's like, dude, where's Jack? I'm like, shut up, man. Like, he's right there next to you. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, no, like, really, where's Jack? I'm like, what? And he, like, pats the blanket, and there's nothing underneath. I'm like, what? So I'm freaking out that we're already going to run out of gas, and we're all the way up this mountain. Like, he must have gotten out and, like, be sleeping at this fucking rest stop. So by the time I'm done freaking out, all the guys are awake. I find this little U-turn on this fucking side of the fucking highway on the mountain.
And that in itself, like, is a not fun place to be.
I have to. I'm like, oh my god.
I mean, there's no other option.
Jack is going to kill me. He might be dead himself. Like, I just left him he's probably sleeping at a rest stop and waking up wondering where the fuck we were at. Like, we're in his car that he was freaking out about taking, and he fucking is stranded there on the side of the fucking mountain at this rest area. I was
like a 90s movie.
Yeah, it was fucking terrible. I was like, oh my god, I just left my best friend fucking sitting there. He could be fucking dead. Like, he's gonna fucking hate me. He's gonna wake up like, oh my god, they fucking left me. So I'm flying.
Can I make a prediction?
No.
Alright,
so I'm flying down the fucking mountain, just hoping that he's not gonna fucking kill me when we get back to him. And we finally fucking pull it back to this rest stop, and we pull right back into the same spot that I was sitting in along the side of the fucking little outhouse building. And we all look over, I'm like, oh my god, there's that little lump of blanket over there that he's under, like, his comfort or whatever. I was like, oh my god, he's still here. Like, oh my, thank god. All the guys are like, don't tell him. I'm like, don't tell him. Like, I thought I just left him. Like, they were like, don't tell him. Just wake him up and, like, let's go. I was like, I'm fucking telling him.
Yeah, you had to.
I walk over to him, and he's still just sleeping there in his little sleeping bag, and I'm like, patting him, like, Jack, dude, I'm so sorry. I just fucking left you on the side of the mountain here, like, at this fucking rest area. We just drove, like, 20 miles, like, and I was so worried, dude. I'm so sorry. Like, I just fucking left you for dead in your own car. And he looks up at me and he says, thanks for coming back for me, dude.
That was going to be my prediction, that he just was asleep still.
Yeah, he was just passed out.
You guys were freaking out.
I'm standing over him. They're like, oh my god, he's telling
You thought he was dead, and he was just, not even aware that you guys had...
So I saved his life there, and a week later we're at Yellowstone, and he just walked straight out onto Old Faithful at 6 a.m. as it is about to blow, and I'm yelling at him. Long story short, yelling at him over all these Asian tourists that are sitting there making me play this beat-up guitar while my friend's about to, like, dive into Old Faithful. He's crazy.
But, so, on that tour, was there a standout show or something that you, like, really remember?
Yeah, speaking of Yellowstone, our buddy who was working there at the time booked us this show there, so that was the reason that we went there. And I'm so grateful for the fact that we went to Yellowstone in general, because
I've definitely always wanted to go.
It is a must. It's beautiful. We had some scenic days there, just like coasting down this little river in the middle of this rock valley and just cruising. Great memories, but this buddy of ours is fucking nuts. He booked us a show because he worked at the, like, employee park district for, like, the hospitality and stuff like that. So we stayed with him and his sister, and what we didn't know, because we spent, like, the first 2 or 3 days there just kind of living it up. After touring straight for a week, it was kind of just a little reprieve, and to have a few days to just unwind in the beautiful Yellowstone mountains.
That sounds awesome.
And we were set to play this show, which we didn't know was, he had basically booked for the R&R room, like the fucking workout room, where it's a bunch of old farts that roll around on medicine balls all day. And him being the crazy guy that he was like, forget that. We're playing at the employee bar, which was this, like, literally employee-run employee bar that, like, was the big party hub at the end of every night. Like, he's like, no, forget it. We're gonna go play down there. And he walks in. I was still at his apartment, but he and Nick walked down there. He's like, I walked in. I'm gonna go walk into the bar and just say, hey, we're the band. Where are we setting up tonight? And sure enough, the bartender was just like, oh, just right over there, I guess. Like, it was like perfect. And he'd already got himself into a little bit of hot water when we got there, because it was later in the night, driving straight through 24 hours after California to get there. And I'd stopped to get like a case of beer before we got into the park because there's no service in there. There's no stores. I was definitely ready to unwind. They ended up drinking most of my beer. He had this party planned and got himself red flagged or whatever you want to call it, slap on the wrist for having a fucking party like that kept everybody up and kept getting the security called or whatever. So he was already kind of in hot shit. And then ended up missing his shift the next morning, even though I tried to fucking slap him and wake him up to get him to go to work. He like just slept in and didn't go to his shift at all. So he was already on strike too. And 3 days later, walks in and changes without anybody's notice us playing from the rec room to the employee bar, which turned into an absolute madhouse when we started just lighting it up and just ripping. Like, people were going crazy. Like, they were just like jumping off of pool tables and like breaking like it was madness.
This is all the employees that work at Yellowstone.
Yeah, it was a
so
Friday night or
so they're ready to party. They've been working all week.
Partiers. They don't mess around. These are people from all over the country that go out of their way just to like go there for the great experience of working at Yellowstone and being fucking crazy for a summer. And they did it right, and it kind of coincided with this crazy kid that was like selling mushrooms at the place, running through getting chased by the cops, which that kid's probably in jail for life. But then us having the security called and Eric having to deal with it, and immediately got fired. And then moved up to Bozeman, which we'd actually made a skirt to Bozeman, Montana to play a show in the middle of that too, which was awesome. But definitely that Yellowstone show stands out as the show that we got him fucking fired. Or he got himself fired, but I
sounds like a good time all around.
It was fun.
You were in Yellowstone. You had an awesome show.
It was terrific.
Interesting story came from it. Your buddy was there, and that sounds.
And we got him fired.
That's awesome. So, and that was like your main big tour that you did? Was this?
That was one of them. We did one more that was also a week or two similar to that. We, in the same fucking Honda CRV, drove to Denver, Colorado. We didn't do the whole California excursion on this.
Well, that's
one.
like double the.
We
do a Colorado one. We try last 3 years. We've done out to Colorado, and that seems very, very like reasonable. But thinking about looking at the logistics of trying to make it out to California after that, it doubles your distance. It just seems
young and
crazy.
Dumb and naive. We were like, we're just gonna do it just because we can. We got the time off work. We were young. We're like, let's just fucking go. It was great. I wouldn't take it back in any means, but logistically, yeah, there's no.
Sounds like you were in the car a lot.
Oh my God, we lived in that car.
Well, did you really not stay anywhere then?
No, we had lined up places to stay everywhere that we went. I mean,
did you ever end up sleeping in the car? Is the question.
No, I got out and slept at that rest area.
Oh, that was as close.
No,
as
we
got.
all slept in the car at one point or another. Absolutely.
I just mean like for the night, you all kind of just had to buckle in.
I think just that rest area. Other than that, I mean, I had friends in San Jose. I had plenty of friends in Denver. One of my friends actually owns the dispensary that we went to out there. Obviously had friends in Yellowstone, had friends in Iowa City at the time. Yeah, I mean, we had places to stay everywhere that we went, but when you're driving 30 hours straight through anywhere, 20 hours, you're definitely getting some shut-eye in the car.
Yeah.
Unless you're me and you're fucking crazy and you're driving the whole thing yourself.
Yeah, I've done the Colorado straight for, I think it was like 14 or 16 hours or something. Drive home's always the worst because you lose an hour. And
yeah, if you're coming from that end of the country.
I can't imagine doing 20 hours though, like you were saying. Like you 20.
It was terrific.
I don't know how you can do it. Like I was going nuts doing it.
Part of me though loved it. It was fucking glorious. Like you're forced obviously to pay more attention when you're the one driving the whole time.
Yeah, it's a different kind of focus.
It took me completely aghast, to be honest with you, driving through some parts of the country. Like, I never really knew how beautiful Utah is, but it is fucking gorgeous.
A bunch of good things about Utah.
Driving around Salt Lake City, I think it was on 80, but around Salt Lake City and just seeing literally the vastness of the Great Salt Lake and just that terrain in general, and then getting into the mountainy areas of Utah, which are kind of similar to Arizona, but reminds me much more of like...
So like plateau kind of?
Huge plateaus. There was one point we're driving on this fucking single lane highway that's suspended like hundreds of feet above the bottom of this valley. You're driving in a valley, but you're basically on the same level vertically with like the plateaus to your right off in the distance. And there's one that you're looking down into the valley of, and at the basin of it, it's got just hundreds of trashed cars that were probably just driven off the side of it or just junked there.
Wow.
That are just like, there's this beautiful endless valley and these plateaus. At the bottom of one that's like prominently to your right is just filled with fucking junked cars at the basin of it.
That'll keep you on your guard a little bit extra, right? You see that? You're probably
like,
maybe I should pay attention just like a little bit more.
I'm lucky enough just to look over when I'm on this single lane highway that I'm freaking out about driving on. And I think there was also a cop following us at the time for this like 5 mile stretch on this single winding fucking like suspended highway that's just like two sides of, you know, cement blocks keeping you from your imminent doom on either side. It was fun.
See, I'm a little more anxiety filled when it comes to that stuff. Like I feel too tense sometimes.
I loved it. I went out of our way. We probably should.
I think it's one thing when it's in the daytime, but those nighttime drives in the mountain, like at 2 a.m.
I was telling you about Yellowstone when we drove into there. It was like 10:30 or 11 at night, which isn't that late, but like after a 24-hour drive, and he tells me specifically, he's like, we're 24 miles in. I'm like, okay. Not thinking anything of it, and then we get in, and then I realize, like, oh, you lose cell service. So he's like, at 24 miles in, you take the right turn to go into the parking lot of. We're like 14 miles in, I assume, but we've been driving for like 15 minutes, and we're all like fucking tense from driving for a full day, and just like.
I mean, I definitely
freaking out because like there's geysers on the right side of the road that are like going off and steaming. We're like. All just mystified, and then it's like, oh my god, none of us have been watching the odometer. Like,
there's a certain amount of like magic though to that, as far as like, you know,
awesome.
after because I always know, like when I pull into Colorado, like not just Colorado, like the cool part of Colorado, and you see the mountains for the first time, it gives you like a little.
You see them coming too, and you're like, oh, they're right there, and then like 2 hours later, you're still, oh, they're right there.
Yeah. That's very true, very true. You see it from so far away, and you think. I'm gonna be there. And
I'm there. You get all excited. You're like, oh my god, we're here. And 2 hours later,
but
like,
there is a certain, I feel like, jolt that I get. So I'm assuming after like a 21 hour drive.
This was something else. We were all just like, is this a real place right now? Like,
so you thought you're like Twilight Zone.
It was like fucking Twilight Zone where everything is just, it's a different world we just drove into. And then we're like, we literally need to turn around and go back to the entrance. And then start counting the odometer as we fucking go and make sure that we know exactly where we're at. Because, like, we're following this road and you know that there's fucking giant animals everywhere. I mean, our buddy told us a kid got gored by a bison, like, the day before we showed up. Like,
I mean, I get a little paranoid at night with just, you know, deer and elk in Colorado.
You should do that. You should be a little paranoid here, too. Like,
oh, I am. But I'm saying... There, it just seems more. I mean, I know that they're around here, but it just.
There was one point where we stopped. We were like stopped in traffic. We were like, "What is there? Why is there traffic here? Like, what the? We're on this fucking 2-lane like interstate highway. That's not. Wasn't an interstate highway, but like it was a back road that was just off to nowhere, and there was 30 cars backed up. Like, what the fuck is going on? And then this bison just starts walking along past the left side of the car. We're like, we are. In nature right now, like
that's a
we don't own this. Like
different realization.
We went out of our way. We probably should have left. There's 4 entrances and exits from Yellowstone. They've got their north, south, east, and west. And we probably should have left out the east side to go the quickest way to our next destination, which is all the way in Iowa. Big jumps.
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like you're in the car a lot.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of time to plan it, and we booked a tour around it the best we could.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we were young and stupid. But
it was, I'm sure, like you keep saying, you wouldn't trade it. So
absolutely not.
It's a different way to view the country, and you got a cool view. I mean, you got it from the driver's seat.
We probably should have left from the east exit, but I specifically took the south so that we could leave from there and go down through Wyoming and drive through the Grand Tetons, which is like 2 hours south of there. And after driving through the forest for a couple hours, you finally get to this clearing, and I looked off to the left, and there was this endless green field in front of the fucking mountains, the snow-capped mountains, and just this field full of thousands, the most amount of any animal I've ever seen. Just thousands of buffalo out there in the middle of the field. Like, I wish I would have gotten a picture, but it wouldn't have done any justice. Like,
yeah, well, they never do out there. Anywhere that looks cool, I feel like it's really hard to capture. I mean, it can be done, but I feel like it's challenging.
Yeah.
And there's something to, I think, taking it in real time and like just being in the moment instead of trying to, capture it for
Instagram.
Yeah, to put it where and to, I mean, those pictures it's the pictures that I do appreciate having because it does kind of bring me back, but, it kind of takes away from the experience sometimes when you're so focused on getting like the cool picture, you know?
Yeah, there's a give and take there for sure.
But it is nice to go someplace cool and just like not even have the cell phone out, I feel like.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm probably gonna revisit I'll have to get Spotify so I can revisit the Flaccid catalog because I mean I've seen you live a few times. I've done sound for you.
Can always burn you a few copies too. You don't have to spend $10.99.
Yeah,
on me.
I don't really
$9.99.
I don't really know where I would. I'm just like everybody else. I don't really have a lot of places to even play CDs. Do you have any vinyl out?
I've got vinyl. I mean, I still play a lot of CDs. I don't play a lot of CDs, but I just have a CD player in the Jeep. I drive an old Jeep,
I mean, I have a CD player too, but I just have my phone, which I can.
Spotify's perfect for being on the go. Like you jump in the car,
right?
You sync it up. And you're good
I mean,
go.
Any music streaming is just so nice to just be able to find. And there is something to like. I know that no artist makes a lot of money from these Spotify streams, but I do feel better about streaming music than like bootleg. Because when I was in high school, I mean, I would just bootleg all this music and stuff and because I mean it was the Wild West of down like Napster and all that.
It's funny you meant LimeWire and shit.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that. Like I don't think I really steal. I haven't like downloaded any music in a long time since
neither.
the days of iPods. Now that they've made it accessible, it has kind of killed that, which is actually a good point. But
so every time you stream a music, even stream any band you like, you are like supporting them a little bit. As opposed to
even if it's
pirating
0.004 cents a stream or something like that.
Right. But as opposed to, and I bought CDs here and there, but I don't know. It's just a one-time kickback that they get from that, and it's probably a small amount for most on that. I mean,
and that's again, I think, to the point of what I was mentioning earlier that like. This time is such a killer for people that were out there making a living on playing out because a lot of what you do get is based off the initial investment from merch. Like when you're like people are more inclined to buy your music if you're right there in front of them. Like
it's definitely an easier sell.
And
if they just saw you and you just killed the show, then they're like,
I got to hear some more of that. Like where can I get it right now? Oh, it's right there. You don't have to worry about downloading Spotify.
But I feel like I'm not a huge, I'm not like obsessed with records or anything, but I'm fascinated by records and I do like to listen to records. I have two older brothers and they're like, so far beyond into it than I am.
Yeah.
But the idea of vinyl is cool, and I think the idea, and it's more about, I really like listening to old stuff on vinyl because that's the way it was meant to be heard. A lot of it. It wasn't made to be heard digitally. With a lot of old school. Like I remember I was listening to The Who, and Bubba O'Reilly came on, and I just thinking back to that time period and hearing that for the first time.
Yeah.
I was like, I just want to hear it the way the first
it was heard.
Yeah, that idea.
The way that they heard it.
And the way they wanted it to be heard. So it's like all of the above.
The best they knew at that time, and it arguably, I mean, there's a big debate, but the way that it is best heard, vinyl sounds fucking fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't get around it.
And there's something to, I think, having being somebody who records music, where it's easy to pick apart music and kind of think of things, in a digital way. I feel like it's easier to hear so many details to stuff and not hear the song as well. Does that make sense? Like, you can really like this one part in this song and not even really have to like the whole song, but because that one part really. And I know not everybody has the ear for that, but that I find myself doing that a lot with like digital music. But if I put on some vinyl, it's like I just hear the song. I just hear I don't hear the pieces as much. Does that?
Yeah, that makes sense. But I can also like, if you're somebody that you kind of have to be. I was saying this the other day. There's a buddy of my friend CJ's that is really into blues, and he's gone so far as to like really dig through the roots of blues all the way back from every influence from every instance of every recording of every song. He finds the one that inspired that, which is what a lot of blues is, and it amazes me because the only people that I ever knew to do that were guitar players. This guy doesn't even play guitar. I'm like, this guy's so interested that he's digging that far back to like early 20s 1900s blues.
I think that there's something to be said about the cataloging of music can be very interesting to like. My older brother Derek is really like that. He is into all, like, he's so into music, but he's not a musician.
Big audiophile.
And more like not even necessarily to listen I mean, he likes listening to it, but it's almost like he enjoys the cataloging of it almost as much. You know, like really diving into a band and knowing where their, like you were saying, influences came from, like your friends.
And that, well, as far as the blues goes, when he's digging into that, like he's got fucking recordings that were like the original, you know, digital representation of the original like records of them making music, like singing hymns in the fields that led to being a fucking blues song, like in the early 1900s. It's like, dude, like you are deep.
And that's like history. I mean,
it's
really.
It is history. It really is. It's just crazy to me that anybody besides a guitar player or somebody that's like actually like learning the blues would do, but it's fucking cool.
Yeah. But and just hearing it I feel like hearing those songs on vinyl would be a pretty cool thing, you know, just for you'd hear it how it was supposed to be heard back then.
Right.
Anyway, so I was gonna, you know, speaking of that, I was gonna ask some of your like who are your go-tos? I heard you talk about the Grateful Dead.
Yeah, I'm not really even that big of a Grateful Dead fan, if I'm being honest. Like, not huge on them. I like some of their tunes, but like, never been one of my favorite bands. Like anybody would say, I like a ton of shit. Some of my biggest influence are probably Star Wars and stupid movies, maybe The Labyrinth.
So Bowie fan? Like some Bowie?
I do love Bowie. Yeah, there's no getting around that. I love David Bowie. I don't know who I would start with. It probably wouldn't be fair to start with anybody in particular. I love Queen. I love Zeppelin. A lot of the obvious ones. I love the Chili Peppers. I love Dave Matthews. I love Jack Johnson. Like, we could go on and on forever about so many. I mean,
what have you been into lately? How about that?
Lately, I've kind of just been keeping an open ear lately. Like randomly, I don't know why I was never that big on Queens of the Stone Age, but like I started listening to some more of their stuff recently, and like I just had the same thought. I can't believe I haven't been such a big fan of these guys. Like, I've listened to all their stuff, but like I fucking love their tunes. He's a great songwriter. So I've been listening to them on and off. Spotify does have some playlists once in a while that pop up, or like other friends' playlists. So like I'm kind of just digging through other people's stuff and
mining for some good
like.
Stuff.
Yeah,
I gotcha. So just Queens of the Stone Age, though, is the main band.
That's the one that like actually stands out, just because I'm surprised that I haven't listened to them forever. But other than that, like there's just little songs that like it's probably been a year ago, but like maybe a year or two ago, but like I didn't have any expectation going in. But I love fucking Billie Eilish. I like her tunes. Her and her brother, who produces them, make some great fucking tunes.
Yeah, and Billie Eilish is one I haven't gotten into as much, but Queens of the Stone Age I can get behind. I haven't done a deep dive by any means, but the precursory look I've taken of them, I enjoy the main songs and stuff like that. I always feel like I should dive in deeper, but...
Yeah, one of my... kind of surprised I didn't mention it. One of my favorite songwriters ever is John Frusciante.
The
Chili Peppers. His solo stuff is unbelievable.
I remember that one album, that his first solo album came out when I was in high school, and I definitely remember back then I was really into it.
Yeah, he's got some good tunes.
He's back playing with the Chili Peppers now, I think.
He is back.
I heard that.
Excited to hear what comes from that.
I'm sure it'll be great. He's a great guitar player for sure. Definitely.
Yeah, he's a phenom.
Next level. So, and then I was going to ask about what you've been doing lately. I mean, I know you said you've been working on an album for, you got 4 tracks recorded. You've been playing out at all. What about...
I haven't been playing out at all, but I have been working on that album, and it's going to be a work in progress. I don't know. I mean, maybe it'll take me 5 years.
I hope not. I hope not.
But that's one of my big focuses right now, is just kind of getting my thoughts together on that, as far as what songs I want to do that are not yet recorded. And I've been kind of on the fence about it for a lot of different reasons, but I mean, you've been playing shows. People have been playing
Not
shows.
very often. I mean, it's I was playing every Friday and Saturday to like maybe 3 to 4 times a month now, maybe less. I mean, depending on when it is. There was a couple months where there was no shows for sure.
Right.
And then, I have some stuff that's booked that they end up and it's like an outside gig, so it's like
but even 1 or 2 of those you've done, but that's basically what I booked one outdoor show at Green Top.
I've heard of that place, Green Top Grocery.
Yeah, in their parking lot. Really, I mean, when I was younger, my best friend took his own life when we were like 19, and in the midst of everything going on with COVID, like I don't think there's been a week that's gone by where I haven't seen or heard of some story of somebody taking their own life, whether it be a friend or a friend of a friend. And I booked a show at Green Top, which is going to be a fundraiser for suicide prevention. So
I gotcha. That's awesome.
Yeah, and that'll be September 5th.
Very cool.
And that'll probably just be me and a couple buddies, nothing too crazy. But
is the Christopher Wyman, is that his name?
I believe he'll be playing with me.
Nice.
Hopefully
I've seen some of his stuff online, and he's a great guitar player. I
love that guy.
That's I don't know him very well, but from what I see, he's really, really good.
Yeah, he's a monster.
That's awesome.
Whether he plays guitar or even dobro, which he's been tinkering with, he sounds great on everything. He's got a great ear. He's an even better person. He's a sweetheart.
That's always good to hear. And then just general life stuff. What have you been doing? To pass the time? Have you been working? Have you been
just jerking off? Really? Just sit at home. Working, but
So where do you work?
I work at a place in town called Skata, where I build electrical panels and do different projects with them.
So not something that was that did you close down for a while, or
no?
You pretty much just have stayed strong this whole time.
Most of the people ended up going to work from home, and I've been predominantly the only person in every day, still working on stuff physically there. So
you haven't had any sort of lapse besides the social lapse. I feel like that's
social lapse is the big one.
Yeah, that's the part.
But we make do.
Yeah, I mean, how do you make do is the question, because I feel, I don't know, I get kind of frustrated. I'm not a big socialite anyway. I think I'm a pretty homebody in a lot of ways, but having the option to like go out and do something, and that being
sometimes it sounds good just to go get fucking breakfast.
Right. You mean like with a group of people, or
just yourself? Like, and then it's like,
I mean, I like that stuff. I'm a big proponent of that stuff, but there is a certain, especially with I think I use shows as my kind of social kind of cup that needs to be.
Well, fuck yeah! I mean, it's that it's the times when you're doing something that you love, and you get to see the people that love you because they're coming to see you or just to be around.
But even at shows where I don't even really necessarily go out and talk to people a ton, I'm
just to see people
doing the job. I feel like my cup gets not completely filled up from that, because I still have to like have interaction with friends and family and stuff like that. But right now, without shows and with limited interaction with friends and family, I feel emptier than normal. I don't know. Do you not have that same?
No, I've definitely had the same feeling. I think everybody has. But for your own safety, you're going to do what you feel comfortable doing, but you just got to make do. Like I've got parents that aren't too old. They're nearing 60, I guess, 58 or whatever, but I'm not putting them at too much risk by being outside again. Like, it's not like we're sitting in a room together. It's what we do. I mean, it's not like we don't still, like, get to see each other, but
you're probably doing less stuff than you would have been doing.
it's the same thing. No, it's just sitting outside, and luckily it's summer, like, sitting outside drinking some beers and fucking playing with the dog. And
do you think it's going to get pretty bleak here if it doesn't, and the winter time comes around, you're stuck, holed up inside?
I think it might get a little bleak either way, whether it goes red or blue. So
you're saying just election-wise,
yeah,
but I just meant the winter.
That'll spice things up. That'll keep us warm for the winter.
I don't know. I'm completely dumbfounded by what even. I just don't even. I almost can't even say anything because it's both just a bit terrible.
I could say a lot of things. It's pretty fucking ridiculous, but
yeah.
Just the fact that we're even forced to choose between two. But that's
the main thing.
To every single time. Like, this is the best we've got in a country of 330 million people. All right.
I don't.
You can't live your life based on it.
Yeah, but right now, it really does seem to be kind of affecting the mass population. Usually, in previous years and previous election years, I think it did matter. I'm not saying it didn't matter, but the direct effect, I think that...
There were times it didn't matter. Like, in 2000, when we spent, a week wondering whether it was fucking Bush or Al Gore that won.
Right.
It was just, a joke. Like, nobody... We weren't, on our heels, but, it's...
Now it feels like it's...
Everybody's on their heels over Sleepy Biden or fucking Trump.
It just seems like the overall unrest of people is at a peak, and then to just give us nobody to put any sort of faith in seems a little...
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't really have any faith in either of them, as far as anybody being the end all be all. I think it'll be crazy.
Don't you think, though?
I think it'll be crazy either way. There's no fucking doubt about that.
Don't you think it would be nice just to, even either side, if there was just a standout person that was a real leader?
You would think you could find somebody, but no.
But I just think the overall mentality of and the unrest would resolve just a little bit if we just had somebody that seemed like they had leadership skills and cared about the people that they would be governing.
Yeah, that would never work.
Because who would want that? Who
would want somebody that's reasonable in charge of all these fucking
who's the person that is reasonable that would want that job? I don't know.
Nobody, because they've got their own shit going on. Right. I don't want to fucking do that.
Yeah. I mean, not that I even could. I don't think I could.
I get worried about booking a safe outdoor show with social distancing. I don't want to fucking deal with everybody's opinion.
Right.
All the
having
time.
50% of everybody pretty much hate you would be pretty...
Yeah, even though I say I don't care what people think about me, I also don't want to fucking be the president. I don't want to be that guy.
Well, whether you care what people think about you or not...
I guess I also...
have to. You'd have to care what people...
I have too many things that people would fucking hate that wouldn't fly.
Right. But, so I don't know. I just was curious as to how you're passing the time, and it sounds like you're busy with the album.
Playing a lot of tunes. I've been taking some lessons from this really good bluegrass picker who plays with Ricky Skaggs.
Yeah, you were saying that.
He's a monster.
And just by hearing you play for a little bit, I could definitely tell that you were taking it to the next level, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that I haven't always played with the pick, but when I play at home and I play an acoustic, I'm always just finger picking and trying things out and finding different stuff. So my finger picking has definitely gotten a lot better over the years, and I just thought, I should push myself in a different way with my instrument and get back into something that'll make me start focusing on picking again, flat picking in particular, but it's all the same. But just really dialing it in and pushing myself in a new position, and it's pushed me in a lot of different ways I didn't realize, with even just little patterns that end up becoming a different idea for some jumping off
little
point
sparks
for a song or
for different things.
Yeah. It's been great.
Opens up kind of your different neural pathways, probably, that makes you come up with
Yeah,
some different stuff.
I'm a big procrastinator. I push shit off until like 2 days before, and it's like, I don't know why, but then I end up looking at the sheets and like just the little patterns that I should have been playing. It's like, God, there's a lot of stuff here that I just end up riffing away on, then it becomes something else entirely.
Right. And then, so you still been playing electric guitar a lot, or?
Not a lot, I wouldn't say, but I have been. Played a couple nights ago with Kyle's new band, Kyle and Jack's new band, Formidable Foe. It was Kyle's birthday Friday, so we were jamming a little bit before.
Nice.
He had a couple people over. And then last night, like I mentioned to you earlier, I think, Nick, who was also in Flaccid, and Kyle came over. We were just jamming in the basement a little bit, so it was great.
And that's a good way to have an excuse to get together right now, I feel like.
Might as well.
Yeah, with all my buddies that I play music with, which are really my only friends, I think. I think ultimately are people I play music with, but
The real ones.
Yeah. I mean, they're the diehard friends because of that almost. You know, you have a different kind of maybe bond and mentality that you kind of overlap a little bit more so with people who like to jam, but yeah, I just think like it's like because you can't go and hang out anywhere, so you may as well get together in a small group and jam some tunes.
Gotta adapt. You gotta just make do and hang out at home, go out to the country, sit around.
I need to probably get out, and I feel like with the full-time job, I just like never have any time to.
Feeling overburdened with it now.
Yeah, but anyway, it's awesome to have you. It's awesome to have like our first real talk and
we'll
good to get to know you. I'm definitely up to do that for sure. So appreciate you. Where can people find your music?
Currently, mostly just my personal Facebook page, the Nolan Kelly and Friends page.
So go and
Nolan Kelly Tunes.
Go and like Nolan Kelly Tunes and Nolan Kelly and Friends on Facebook.
Instagram, I'm No Thank You Sir. Which is very misleading, but it's not changing. I'm always posting random little videos there, but yeah, I'm out there.
And then you're getting into podcasting, or you've done a few podcasts?
Yeah, I've done a couple, and hopefully going to be getting back into that. It kind of hit a brick wall. I started right before COVID happened, and then haven't really had anybody over to do that specifically, but
it seems like everything on that front is easing up a little bit. People are getting, one-on-one, if you both know that you're
to
healthy.
A certain extent, everything is kind of easing up, right? Like,
in some ways.
Yeah, in other ways, not at all. But if you can be safe about it and know what you're doing, like, is it safer than going to Walmart? Probably.
Definitely. I think it's definitely safer than a lot of things you could do. And
that's what Nick was saying last night. He was like, "That's my gauge at this point for everything I do. Like, is this safer than going into Walmart? Okay,
on that gauge, my shows have been fine. I think.
Right, you're outside. You're not shouting in somebody's face.
I really haven't. I've went up and talked to a few people, but not playing shows in a long time, and then being on stage, it's like I don't ever want to get off the stage. So I pretty much just keep playing. Like, I take very minimal breaks a lot of the time because. It's very hard for me to even think about, like, okay, I'm going to go and just shoot the shit for, 20 minutes of when I could be playing all these. Because, as much as my show schedule has diminished, my practice schedule really hasn't. Because I'm still, like, trying to keep, like,
pushing forward.
Right, and keep my chops up and keep my song repertoire up. So, like, when I do, it's like I just am, like, as many as... Last night I had a show at Clark Bar in Champaign, and I was only supposed to do 6 to 9, and people were there, and they kept saying, if you want me to play longer, just put it... I got a tip jar, happy to do it, because they'd already asked me to play longer, and when they put the tip in, I was like, I'll play as long as you guys want if you keep throwing tips in that jar.
$10, that's 2 hours.
20 was about an hour, I think, is what it ended up. So they put a few 20s in last night, and I ended up playing for like 4.5 hours. So it was so I don't really get a lot of actually like really close one-on-one,
right?
Because with this being like in front of the mic, you're not talking or being next to. The show I played before that had like a back door that like got to the stage. So really both of those have been a lot better than Walmart, I think. So I think my conscience is okay. Clean. No, I wouldn't say clean. That's pushing it maybe.
Barely dirtied.
There we go. But yeah, so this was great. I'll definitely put all your links in my the comments and the description and everything, so everybody can find your music. So just look below, click on all that, like Nolan's everything, and
Appreciate it, man.
yeah, we'll talk to you next time. Have a good one. Anybody who took the time to listen, I always appreciate you, and we will see you. Have a good one.
Bye, people.